Hi there. My name is Pastor Greg. This is Transforming the World. We've been talking about loyalty all this week on Transforming the World, and maybe you've been wondering what happens when we are not loyal to Christ. What happened with the Apostle Peter when he denied Jesus 3 times in that courtyard the night that he was arrested? Well, that's what we're going to examine in today's edition of Transforming the World. I'll be right back. Question number 9 in the self-evaluation section asks this: do I understand that Jesus stays by my side even when I have endured so much that I seem to have no loyalty left? Or what happens in my relationship with Jesus when I am unfaithful? In Paul's second letter to Timothy, 2 Timothy 2:11 through 13, this is what Paul says to him. He says, if we die with him, we will also live with him. Absolutely. Loyalty, again. And he's not talking about physically dying with him, although if we physically die with Christ, we will live with him, yes. But Paul's talking about relational. Remember how I said loyalty is purely relational in the matters of Scripture? It is. It truly is. Loyalty to Christ means that we remain faithful to that relationship that we have with Jesus. I mean, how loyal is a husband who goes out and says, she's not my wife? I mean, you would question the man's loyalty and commitment to his marriage vows. What Christian would go out into the world and say, I'm not a believer? And yet on Sundays, they stand in a church and lift their hands in praise. What kind of a relationship must that person have with Christ? That doesn't sound very loyal, does it? So Paul says, if we die with him, meaning that if we make Christ the center of who we are, and if we lay aside all of the passions and desires of the world and take Christ upon ourselves, and we begin living our lives like we are followers of Christ. That's dying to ourselves. That according to Paul, he's like, we will live with him. That whole relationship with Christ is knitted together when we put to death the old self and take Christ upon ourselves. And in those moments when we stand in a courtyard and somebody says, aren't you a Christian? We look at him and say, absolutely. And not be ashamed about it, but be proud to be able to call yourself a friend of Christ. We're going to live. We will live with him. Verse 12 says, if we endure hardship, we will reign with him. Yes. When pressured to deny Jesus and we remain loyal, Christ says, you will reign with him. Paul also says, look, if you deny him, he will deny us. If we deny him, he will deny us. But verse 13, don't miss this. If we are unfaithful, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny who he is. Now, like me, the words in verse 12 probably made you stand up and take notice. If we deny him, he will deny us. My question here is disloyalty the same as denial? Well, not necessarily. You see, there are probably moments in our lives where we remain silent about our relationship with Christ, or maybe we even act like Peter. We tell others that we are not a follower of Jesus. But then you have to look at how Christ responded to Peter. Even though the man had clearly denied any relationship with the Lord, what did Jesus do? He continues to reach out to the man. That doesn't sound like denying him, does it? So, did Peter truly deny Christ, or was uh, or was Peter just merely afraid and remain? In his heart he had not denied Christ. With his lips, yes, but in his heart, no. And I believe that's the key here. It's what's in the heart that matters here. The Lord knows the attitude of your heart. You might deny him with your lips, but your heart tells a different story. Even if we are unfaithful, even if we are not loyal, he remains loyal because that's who the Lord is. So there's a big difference there. I want you to be aware of that. To deny the Lord is deny him access to your heart. Unloyalty, on the other hand, is to have a moment of weakness where you allow the worries of the world, fear of criticism or persecution, um, you allow that to get the best of you and you have a weak moment. But in your heart, he is still King of Kings and Lords of Lords. You just had a moment where you struggled to be obedient. But in your heart, Jesus is your King. I think therein lies the difference. It's a difference there. If we are faithful to him, even if we are unfaithful to him, he remains faithful to us. He can't deny who he is. But loyalty to Christ. The question is, loyalty to Christ is going to come and go in our lives. We're not perfect. We're going to have those weak moments. And yet, thankfully, the Lord looks at the heart. He looks there to see what kind of attitude we have toward him. Well, that's loyalty. Loyalty. Many different ways we express loyalty. Don't be afraid to demonstrate loyalty to Christ this coming week, as the world is watching. As the world is watching. Next week, we're going to take a look at the topic of love. That should be a very interesting study. Absolutely very interesting study. We'll talk to you on Monday on Transforming the World. My name is Pastor Greg. You have a blessed weekend, and I'll see you then.